They were warriors bred for battle, trained to feel no pain, and feared across the ancient world. The Spartans have become legends, thanks to movies, myths, and the stand of the 300 at Thermopylae. But behind the Hollywood image lies a far deeper story. Who were the real Spartans? How did they rise to power, dominate Greece, and then vanish? Let's unravel the epic and brutal history of Sparta, from mythic origins to catastrophic decline. Sparta's origins stretch back to the early Iron Age, around the 10th century BCE. After the collapse of the Mycenaean civilization, Greece entered a dark age of fragmentation. Into this vacuum came the Dorians, a warlike tribe from the north who settled in the lush Eurotas Valley of Laconia. They founded what would become Sparta, not as one city, but as 5 villages that eventually united under a single political system. Unlike Athens, which developed through trade, seafaring, and intellectual pursuit, Sparta chose a different path: conquest. Around 725 BCE, Sparta invaded and subjugated the neighboring region of Messenia, one of the richest agricultural areas in Greece. This wasn't a short campaign. It took over 20 years and triggered revolts that would continue for over a century. Rather than enslave the Messenians individually, the Spartans created a whole class of serfs called the Helots, a permanent hereditary underclass who worked the land and gave most of their produce to the Spartan elite. This system gave Sparta incredible wealth, but also a deep vulnerability. The Helots vastly outnumbered the Spartans, by some estimates as many as 10 to 1. This threat of constant rebellion shaped everything Sparta would become. To control the Helots, Sparta became a military state, one of the most extreme ever created. Every male Spartan citizen known as a Spartiate was a full-time warrior. From age 7, boys entered the agoge, a grueling state-sponsored training program where they were taught to fight, endure pain, and suppress emotion. They were underfed to encourage cunning, beaten to build toughness, forbidden from showing weakness. Public flogging or diamastagosis wasn't just punishment, it was a rite of passage. Some didn't survive, but those who did were bonded for life to their fellow soldiers. This wasn't just a military machine, it was social engineering on a massive scale. By their 20s, Spartans joined a syssitia, a military dining group where they ate, trained, and lived together. Loyalty to the group was more important than family, and at the top of the system sat Spartan citizenship, a sacred status earned only through completion of the agoge and ongoing service. It could be lost for cowardice, or even for failing to pay for your communal meals. But what about the rest of society? While Spartiate men trained and fought, daily life was held together by the perioikoi, free non-citizens who handled trade, craftsmanship, and economic activity. They lived in surrounding towns and paid taxes to Sparta, but had no political power. Then there were the Helots, tied to the land and treated brutally. Spartans staged annual purges known as the Crypteia, where elite young men were sent out to secretly kill any Helots who seemed rebellious. It was state-sponsored terror, intended to keep the population in constant fear. Meanwhile, Spartan women held a uniquely powerful position in Greek society. Unlike Athenian women, they could own and inherit land, manage estates, and were educated in both physical and domestic skills. Women were expected to be fit and outspoken. They often ran households while men were away, and they were famously sharp-tongued. One ancient saying captures their mindset: only Spartan women give birth to real men. Sparta's government was just as unique. It combined monarchy, oligarchy, and limited democracy. 2 kings, each from a different royal line, ruled jointly. One stayed in Sparta, one led in war. A Gerousia, or Council of Elders, composed of 28 men over age 60, proposed laws and advised the kings. The ephors, 5 powerful magistrates, oversaw education, justice, and even the kings themselves. And a citizen assembly voted on key issues, though debate was discouraged. Spartans were trained to be laconic, brief, blunt, and disciplined in speech. This system balanced power to avoid tyranny, but also locked society into rigidity. There was no room for upward mobility or innovation. Sparta's strength was also its greatest weakness. By the 6th century BCE, Sparta had become the military hegemon of the Peloponnese. Through the Peloponnesian League, they allied with and dominated many other city-states demanding obedience and military support. But Sparta didn't seek empire. It feared the outside world and shunned contact with foreign ideas. Unlike Athens, it had no navy, few traders, and little cultural output. Sparta's currency? Iron bars, deliberately useless to discourage greed and foreign trade. This isolationism kept Sparta stable, but also static. Then came the Persian Wars. When the mighty Achaemenid Empire invaded Greece in 490 BCE, and again in 480 BCE, Sparta took center stage. It was King Leonidas and his 300 Spartans, joined by a few thousand allies who made a legendary last stand at Thermopylae. Though defeated, they delayed the Persians and became immortalized for their heroism. In later battles, including Plataea and Mycale, Sparta played a key role in driving back the Persian threat. Their military system had proven its value, but also revealed limits. Sparta was hesitant, slow to mobilize, and politically inflexible. After the Persian threat, tensions between Sparta and Athens exploded into the Peloponnesian War. From 431 to 404 BCE, this brutal conflict reshaped the Greek world. Athens boasted naval dominance, imperial wealth, and a vibrant democracy. Sparta relied on land power and discipline. With Persian support, Sparta eventually built a navy and defeated Athens, capturing the city and toppling its democracy. For a brief moment, Sparta ruled Greece. But victory was Pyrrhic. The prolonged war weakened all Greek states. Sparta tried to impose its harsh rule across the Aegean, but it lacked the bureaucracy and economic base to govern effectively. The frequent revolts, foreign entanglements, and internal decline soon began to unravel Spartan dominance. Then came Sparta's fatal blow, the Battle of Leuctra, 371 BCE. For centuries, Sparta had been undefeated on land, but now, a rising power, Thebes, challenged it. General Epaminondas, a brilliant tactician, reorganized the Greek phalanx and used innovative formations to smash the Spartan army. Not only did Sparta lose, its myth of invincibility was destroyed. Even worse, Thebes marched into Messenia and freed the Helots, robbing Sparta of its labor force and economic foundation. Without Helots, Sparta could not sustain its army, or its society. Its citizen population, already shrinking, continued to decline. By the 3rd century BCE, there were fewer than 700 full Spartan citizens left. Attempts at reform failed. The rigid system that had once kept Sparta strong now ensured its downfall. By the time of Alexander the Great, Sparta was no longer a major player. It refused to join his empire, but Alexander ignored them entirely. When the Romans arrived centuries later, Sparta had become a backwater, a curiosity admired for its discipline but no longer feared. The Romans romanticized Spartan ideals and used its legacy to teach courage and virtue. Today, very little remains of ancient Sparta. No grand temples, no marble ruins like Athens. The Spartans discouraged writing, art, and monuments. They built warriors, not buildings. Their military innovations shaped Western warfare. Their society is studied for its extreme discipline and control. And their name, Spartan, still conjures images of strength, resilience, and sacrifice. A society that values war above all else may win battles, but still lose the future. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Spartan history, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon for more weekly explorations into the past. Which ancient civilization should we cover next? Drop your ideas in the comments below. And remember, real history is never black and white. Even legends have cracks in their armor.